Hey everybody, what's going on? This is Matt. Today I wanted to talk about moving on from the language learning app that you're using or the language learning program onto something that's more compelling, more fun, or more effective. And I think that this is something that it's very easy to fall into a trap of, where you're very comfortable with the method or the thing that you're using to learn a foreign language. Maybe that's a program, a course, an app. And it's reasonably fun, it's reasonably effective, but you're kind of stuck in that routine. And it might be worthwhile to explore new ways to learn the language or move on to certain things that are going to take you to the next level. Because a lot of times we really stick with certain material or things that, they're kind of effective, but we could be making a ton more progress or be having a lot more fun if we just took that initiative and moved on to the next thing. So I think of like two really big examples for language learners on this subject matter. So the first is, I think a lot of people really stick with beginner stuff for way too long, whether that's a beginner language learning app, it's a course, a program, maybe it was just to get their feet wet. And at some point, it makes a lot more sense to move on to something that's going to help them acquire a lot more vocabulary acquisition. Maybe that's an SRS flashcard system. Maybe it even means so far as, practicing listening more in the foreign language. Because oftentimes these language learning apps or programs, they're a relatively good introduction to the language, but they start to really lack in vocabulary, and they start to kind of lose. They're not that fun, right? They lose that novelty after a while, and it's very easy to get bored. And chances are that program that you're using or that app isn't going to be working on all the skills necessary to get very fluent or very competent at a language. And it's not getting you on a pathway to start enjoying the language on a compelling level, whether that's reading in the foreign language, watching Netflix shows, or whatever. And so it takes, it's well worthwhile to think about, okay, is what I'm doing right now effective? Is it fun? And is it aligned with, where I want to go? Because a lot of times too, moving on from that beginner app, that beginner textbook onto those other things will help you to get past that beginner stage and into the intermediate phase, where you can start having a lot more fun, and the language learning process will become a lot easier, over the long term. I think a good second example of this is people that probably use the flashcard systems a little bit too long, right? Think Memrise or Anki, where they're very effective, especially the beginner or intermediate phase, but it might be worthwhile to move on to stuff like reading to acquire more vocabulary in a more natural and fun way. And so, these are just two examples, but it can really apply to just so many different areas. It's really important to always be assessing, hey, is what I'm doing fun? Is it effective? And it's very easy to be very comfortable and stuck in this routine of just kind of going through the motions. I mean, the method that you're using could be pretty effective, right? It could be pretty compelling, but oftentimes it might even make sense to mix it up and to kind of disrupt what we're doing, because just because we're in a routine, it doesn't necessarily mean that routine is effective or great for us. We could be kind of stuck in this habit where we're not really making that much progress because we're just kind of stuck in autopilot mode. And oftentimes when you're learning a language, it's a very dynamic process. You're going to be good at one subject matter and then really weak at another, and then it's going to flip 2 months down the line. So you always have to be on top of this idea of, what's working. Am I on target to get to that next level, to get to that next stage in the language process? And with those goals, what do I need to do to get to that next level? So it's very important to always be assessing, hey, is the language learning app or program or whatever that I'm using effective right now? Or is it even fun? And if it's not fun, what can I do that is fun? Or how can I get to a place where I can start having a lot more fun in the language? I think this is very important, especially important for the beginners, because it's very easy to just want to be on autopilot mode and have the app take you from beginner stage all the way to fluency, but very rarely is that the case. Sometimes you just got to move on from what you're doing, take that leap and be a little bit exploratory, and move on to something that's going to be a lot more effective for you. So that's what I had to say. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.